Good morning, everybody. Look, there's been quite a few people that have I don't know, what do you call it these days? Joined up, followed, whatever, over the last year. So I thought I would just recap on what it is that I do and who I represent, right? So I'm the Chief Executive of the ACA CE Association. And some people get that confused. They get aged care confused with retirement villages. Retirement villages are a lifestyle choice of very independent living older New Zealanders. It's not aged care, so therefore I don't represent anybody that has anything to do with retirement villages. But what I do represent, or who I do represent, is pretty much about 100% of those who provide aged residential care. So I don't represent anybody who provides in-home care, only those who provide aged residential care. And sometimes where the confusion lies is that there are members of ours who have a village on one side and they have a residential care facility. I don't know anything about their retirement village business. I just know about their residential care business. The other sort of thing that sometimes people think is, oh, well, that's all, all the residential care in New Zealand, or most of the residential care in New Zealand is delivered by what are the listed companies. And that's not true either. So we certainly do represent the Rymans, the Oceanias, the Somersets, the Heritages and so on, and MetLife Care, etc. But we also represent all the way down to, a small facility that is in Woodville, or an independently owned facility in Dunedin that has, just 15, 20, 25 beds, that sort of thing. So we represent quite a diverse provision of those providing residential care in New Zealand. And the largest number of beds that are provided in this country are provided by charities, not-for-profits, and small owner-operators. So yes, 100% of the sector is privatised, but the largest number of beds, I think about of the 41,000 beds in New Zealand, around about 40%, 45% are provided by the listed or the larger providers, and then you've got the rest of those beds are provided by not-for-profits, charities, or small owner-operators. Well, that was based on the last numbers that I had. So that's who I represent, just to make sure that everybody who's now watching these things understands who I represent. Because I've had a few people contact me through the feed, through private messenger or whatever, asking me to help them with a product that might be, they want to show to support in-home care. Don't look after in-home care. They might want to get access to retirement villages. I don't represent retirement villages, just residential care. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that the Australian government did recently. So in early February this year, the South Australian government announced 250 million no-interest loans, so a 250 million low-interest loan scheme as part of its boost to residential aged care capacity. And the goal there is to incentivise the construction of up to 650 new aged beds across South Australia. The reason they're doing that is to alleviate pressure on public hospitals where hundreds of patients are waiting for residential care, delayed discharge. Now, let's just tie that in to the National Infrastructure Plan that got placed on the table in Parliament last year. So the Infrastructure Commission did a whole lot of submissions, asked people to put forward not only new infrastructure that was needed in New Zealand, not only updating to infrastructure that was currently there to future-proof it for New Zealand, but also they asked for ideas around how certain other pieces of infrastructure could be created to alleviate the pressure on existing infrastructure. And the top 10 priorities of the decade, the number one priority of the decade is to lift hospital investment for an ageing population. Now, the reason, what I find fascinating is, and I submitted into the Infrastructure Commission's process for this and explained to them that if we moved as the Australians did, the Australians that can see that the very fact that you need to build more hospital beds is because your hospital beds are being taken up with older citizens who don't need to be in hospital, They could be recovering in a residential care facility and then going home once they're strong enough and they have the appropriate amount of support, or they could be transferring into a residential care bed, which, even if it was funded properly, would be 1/3 of the cost of a hospital bed. Now, the Infrastructure Commission, I got through to round 2, and the Infrastructure Commission said you can't prove what it would save us or whatever from a building hospital bed perspective. And no, I can't, because I'm not Treasury and I'm not the government, and I can't get all of those numbers together out of Treasury or out of government, which shows not that you would necessarily not have to build some more hospital beds, but it's actually about the efficiency with which you use the current hospital beds that you have, which means that you could lessen the number of new hospital beds that you might need to build. By investing, by allowing low interest loans, no interest loans, or actually an infrastructure grant fund, which is what we submitted on. So I think it's fascinating. We miss a trick every single time, and the Australians just get in and do it. And, I'm a proud New Zealander, and it really irritates me that we seem to be able to lag behind in this way. Bye.